In this video, I'm going to show you the double-click volume fader in Reaper. So I have a project set up here, and I want to mix it and set my levels one at a time until each volume is perfect. Now I tend to work in the track control panel, which is what we're seeing right here, but if I want to adjust my tracks, I have to do it with the knob right here, which doesn't give us a lot of play or throw to move the fader or knob. So I prefer a fader, which we can add to the track control panel by going up here to the options, themes, and choosing the theme adjuster and adjusting our volume size right here. Instead of a knob, we can make it a fader, but this fader is just horizontal. I prefer a vertical fader with a bit more throw. So I'm going to put this back to a knob, and we can get that fader if we open up the mixer. So I'll go up here to the view menu and choose the mixer, or we can use the keyboard shortcut. On PC, it's Control-M, and on Mac, it's Command-M. And that opens up our mixer down here. Now on my screen, I'm not getting much throw on the faders, so I'm going to right-click it and undock the mixer from the docker, which floats it in its own separate window. But the one problem with working this way, although we can see all our tracks together, let's say we want to adjust the volume for the bass, right over here, open the mixer, and we have to search for the bass track to adjust it. It's right over here. So if you're using a very large project, it can be hard to find the fader you want to adjust. It's much quicker to find it right over here. But again, it's just a knob. So one of the solutions is to create a one-track mixer like this. Let's hide the master fader, right-click, master track, don't show it in the mixer. So we just see the individual tracks. And let's change the size of it so we just see one track at a time, like this. So now, if I select the bass, the mixer changes to just see the bass track. So I can adjust it right here with a nice big fader and a lot of throw. Or if I want to adjust my drums, or the background vocals, or the lead vocal, just clicking it changes which track we see, making it a lot quicker to adjust the volume on that track. But I want to take it one step further. Instead of having to open up and close the mixer each time, like this, hit the keyboard shortcut, it opens it up, I can adjust it, hit the same keyboard shortcut to close it. I think we could speed this up with double clicking. So let's go to the options menu and go down here to preferences. Then we can scroll down under editing behavior and choose mouse modifiers. And make sure we choose the context, track control panel, and double click. And we can see by default, if we double click on our track, it's going to select all media items on that track, like this. If I double click the bass, it selects all these. Double click the background vocals, it selects all these. So I don't want to lose this function, which is right over here, but I use it not as often. So I'm going to move this function to a modifier I'm not using, like Control, double click it, select all media items on track, and now if I hold down that modifier and double click a track, it selects all the items on that track. So we still have that function. But now we can change the default action with double click right over here. Double click. And let's go to the action list. Let's find the shortcut for our mixer. Right over here. Toggle mixer visible. Double click it. Now it shows up right here as the default action for double clicking in the track control panel. So now, if I double click my drum track, it opens up that one track mixer with a nice fader. We can double click it again to close it, double click the bass, and do the same thing, and just adjust it with a nice big fader. Now to close it, we can use the keyboard shortcut for the mixer to close it or show it, or double click it here, but moving the cursor back and forth to close it is a bit slow. So what I prefer to do is double click the mixer track and have that close the mixer. But by default, if we double click it, it changes the arrange window to zoom view to track. Double click it again, it goes back, double click it to zoom that view. And if you want that function, we could assign it to a different modifier the same way. Reopen the preferences, but this time we'll choose the mixer control panel, double click. And by default, we have the zoom view to track. Let's move it to one of these other modifiers right here. And let's add the mixer action over here. Double click it, go to action list, find our mixer right here, double click it. Now that's assigned when we double click on mixer control panel. So now, if we still want that previous function, we can double click with that modifier, so it'll zoom view to that track. But otherwise, double clicking this one fader closes the mixer. So now, we can double click any track we want. Let's double click the background vocals, and now we can adjust the background vocals with a one track mixer. And if we're happy with the level, double click it over here, and it closes it. Double click this guitar, adjust it, double click it to close it, and now the mixer is hidden. So I just find this a quicker way to work. If I just want to adjust the lead vocal, I can double click it, and we get a fader right here. Double click it again to close it, or switch tracks just by clicking any other track in the track control panel. I want to adjust the bass, the guitar, the keys, and so on. Double click it over here to close it, or double click it over here to close it from here. Just a bit quicker to adjust our bass, our guitars, and so on. And if I want to adjust two tracks at the same time, I could just select both of them, and this one fader will adjust both. Pay attention to the knobs over here, and they're adjusted together while just using one fader. Double click over here to close it all, and we're back to the track control panel, continuing to mix. So that's pretty much it. That's the double click volume fader in Reaper. I hope you learned something, hope you could use it, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bingo, boys, let's go.